Here's something that might shock you. Australia could be heading into one of its wettest springs in years, but that's not necessarily the good news everyone thinks it is. The Bureau of Meteorology just dropped their official seasonal forecast this Thursday, and the patterns they're revealing paint a fascinating picture that most Australians aren't prepared for. While much of the eastern seaboard is gearing up for significantly above-average rainfall, there's a twist in this weather story that could change everything. According to Dr. Simon Granger, BOM senior climatologist, the rainfall predictions aren't just optimistic projections. They're backed by some seriously compelling data. We're looking at the highest probability of excessive rainfall occurring during September and October, Dr. Granger explains. When November rolls around, we're still talking about a 60 to 65% likelihood of above normal precipitation. But here's where it gets controversial. Western Australia stands completely alone in this forecast picture. Unlike every other state showing those telltale blue rainfall indicators across BOM's Outlook maps, WA presents a neutral stance. This comes after Perth and the western coastline just experienced what many are calling their most waterlogged winter in decades. The question everyone's asking is whether this signals a permanent shift in Australia's weather patterns or just a temporary anomaly. Now, when meteorologists mention wetter than average, they might be talking about something as minimal as a few extra millimeters beyond typical measurements. However, and this is the part most people miss, certain regions of Queensland and New South Wales are showing double, even triple the probability of what experts classify as unusually wet conditions. We're talking about rainfall levels that would place this spring in the top 20% of wettest years on record, particularly during October. That's not just a statistical curiosity, that's a potential game changer for agriculture, urban planning, and daily life across these regions. Meanwhile, southeastern Australia finds itself bracing for what meteorologists are describing as a turbulent conclusion to winter. A powerful cold front is currently charging toward the Great Australian Bight, bringing with it a cocktail of frigid temperatures, heavy precipitation, and fierce winds. Snow is expected to fall at unusually low elevations over the coming days. Emergency services have already issued multiple severe weather alerts across South Australia, Victoria, and New South Wales, warning residents about potentially damaging to locally destructive wind conditions and blizzard scenarios in alpine regions. But here's something interesting that challenges conventional thinking about seasonal weather patterns. Spring temperatures are forecast to climb above normal levels across most of Australia, especially during nighttime hours. Dr. Granger suggests this temperature anomaly connects directly to the increased cloud coverage accompanying the wetter weather outlook. Those clouds essentially function as a thermal blanket, trapping heat that would otherwise radiate away during evening hours, he elaborates. Daytime spring temperatures are also projected to exceed normal ranges throughout northern Australia, including Victoria and Tasmania. However, the remaining territories present a more moderate temperature outlook, with some areas of New South Wales and Queensland actually experiencing cooler than normal daytime conditions. The increased cloud density in those particular zones elevates rain probabilities while simultaneously creating conditions for below-average daytime temperatures, Dr. Granger notes. This creates an interesting paradox that challenges how we typically think about seasonal weather relationships. Dr. Granger emphasizes a crucial point that many people overlook. These seasonal outlooks represent broad generalizations that don't capture specific weather events lasting days or weeks with dramatically different conditions. Spring weather is notorious for its unpredictability and volatile nature. Spring represents the absolute peak period for storm activity, particularly severe thunderstorm systems along Australia's eastern coastline, he explains. We can definitely anticipate more of those dramatic weather situations that long-range forecasting simply cannot predict with precision. Here's where the situation becomes genuinely concerning. Southeastern regions desperately need this continued rainfall to recover from consecutive years of drought conditions. While recent precipitation has provided some relief to certain areas, the persistent rainfall deficiencies affecting southern South Australia, Victoria, and Tasmania remain essentially unchanged from their problematic levels. This situation has prompted emergency services to issue warnings about elevated bushfire risks across parts of Victoria this spring, along with certain northern Western Australian regions. The AFA Seasonal Bushfire Outlook presents a sobering assessment. Throughout southeastern Australia, surface moisture levels mask deeper soil drying that has developed from extended rainfall deficiencies accumulating over the past 12 to 18 months. Some locations have recorded their lowest rainfall totals ever documented during this time frame. Should spring rainfall fail to materialize as predicted, conditions will rapidly transition towards significantly increased fire risk. Western Australia found itself in comparable circumstances until winter weather patterns completely altered the trajectory for much of the southwest region. Heavy precipitation across the west coast during recent months has transformed the landscape dramatically. Perth residents have witnessed their wettest winter season in several decades. Dr. Meredith Guthrie, a research scientist with Western Australia's Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development, describes the substantial winter rainfall as absolutely remarkable for agricultural communities throughout the region. It feels like traveling back to the winter seasons of my childhood. The transformation has been absolutely extraordinary. Dr. Guthrie shares with obvious enthusiasm. However, this positive narrative doesn't apply universally, as portions of the southern and central wheatbelt regions in Western Australia continue experiencing significantly drier conditions than historical averages. And this is the part most people miss. The forecast for Australia's potentially soggy spring coincides perfectly with the emergence of a major rain-producing climate phenomenon developing in waters northwest of the continent. Scientists call this system the Indian Ocean Dipole, often described as El Niño's cousin in terms of climate influence. Recent weeks have witnessed ocean temperature changes, pushing this driver toward its moisture-rich phase. Technically termed a negative Indian Ocean Dipole. Historically, negative IOD events have contributed to most of Australia's record-breaking wettest winters and springs. While this system hasn't reached full development yet, Dr. Granger indicates it appears likely to strengthen over the approaching weeks, reaching peak intensity during October. We've observed an accumulation of warmer water masses along Australia's northwest coastline, and current weather patterns favor the transport of moist tropical air masses across much of eastern Australia, he explains. The peak IOD intensity that our models are projecting aligns perfectly with the period showing the highest probabilities of above-average rainfall throughout eastern Australia. Dr. Granger identifies another component of the climate system potentially influencing this wet outlook: ocean temperatures, which are predicted to exceed normal ranges across several Australian regions throughout spring. These elevated ocean temperatures can certainly function as an additional moisture source for rain-bearing weather systems, he notes. This development follows Australia's record-breaking year for ocean temperatures between July 2024 and June 2025, establishing new benchmarks for oceanic thermal conditions. But here's the question that's got everyone talking. Are we witnessing the beginning of a new long-term climate pattern? Or is this just a temporary weather anomaly that will reverse itself next year? Some experts argue that these dramatic swings between extreme drought and excessive rainfall could become Australia's new normal as global climate systems continue evolving. Others maintain that we're simply experiencing natural climate variability that has characterized Australian weather for centuries. What do you think? Are these weather predictions something Australians should celebrate as drought relief? Or should we be concerned about the potential for flooding, infrastructure damage, and agricultural disruption? Have you noticed these dramatic weather pattern shifts in your local area? And do you believe they represent permanent climate changes or temporary fluctuations? The conversation about Australia's changing weather patterns is far from over, and your perspective as someone experiencing these conditions firsthand could provide valuable insights that meteorologists and climate scientists need to hear. Share your thoughts and observations. Are you seeing evidence of these predicted changes where you live?